On our broadcast tonight, the case for the regularization of the number industry.
BEC's executive chairman talks about why your power has been in and out.
And all week, you can get in to watch and win while we're here live at the beautiful Atlantis Resort. We explore a new corner of the resort every night. The Bahamas Tonight, the National Report starts now.
Now in HD. ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight. This portion of the news brought to you by BTC Every Day.
It looks like those web shops and numbers houses may get their wish and become regularized. That's if the minister responsible for gaming, the Honorable Obi Wilshcombe, gets his way. Good evening, everyone. I'm Keishla Adderley, coming to you live from the Marina Village at the Atlantis Resort.
And I'm Andrew Knowles. Thanks for joining us. It's coincidental that we are here almost in the shadow of the largest gambling center of the Bahamas. The Minister of Tourism told our Clint Watson today that it's time for government to bite the bullet and do what, in his view, is the best for the country.
The minister with responsibility for gaming, the Honorable Obi Wilshcombe, says that it's a reality that web shops and numbers houses have existed for decades and have made millions of dollars off of Bahamians. He adds that web shops have operated peacefully and without interruption for some time, but now is the time to stop acting like they don't exist.
We have in government, successive governments, I believe we're at fault. I don't think it's the police that's at fault. I don't think it's the web shop owners who are at fault. I don't think it's the people at fault. I think it's the governments. We have not effectively dealt with it. So let's face the facts. Let's face the fact that this is something existing today. Let's face the fact that you're not going to find a way to shut it down and keep it closed, because it's going to just cause for another industry to be developed and further underground, which could then lead to more difficulties and more problems for you. So you have an industry, they're licensed. So what do we have to do now? Just regulate.
Minister Wilshcombe says the Bahamas must move to regulate the industry because as it stands, large sums of money are leaving the country, much of it foreign currency.
Many of these owners who are men of business acumen, they're finding new opportunities, they're getting licenses in other parts of the world, and they're going out investing their money. Well, why don't we cause some of that money to be invested in the Bahamas? I've said a long time ago, it could be invested in areas like education, healthcare, sports, culture, and certainly to deal with addiction and rehabilitation. So we have to look at what we have to do, and I think that we can, as a government, continue to ignore it.
Having had a referendum on the issue which resulted in a no vote to regulate, Minister Wilshcombe agrees that this can't be ignored, but he says they must continue to do what they've been doing, and that is talk with the church.
The truth is our country is undergirded by our Christian principles, and so we have to talk to the church. And we've also been talking with the web shop owners. Very important, because we have to find a way in which to proceed. And whilst the church has to establish its positions, and they have, and we know what the position of the church is, the government of the Bahamas still has to govern. And we cannot ignore realities, and we cannot ignore the situation that exists in the Bahamas. And so I believe time has come for us to be very forceful. We're talking about VAT. Well, we have to tax those who should be taxed before we even get to VAT.
And speaking of VAT, Minister Wilshcombe says that there is a great likelihood that once the numbers industry is regulated, the 15% standard rate for VAT can end up being significantly lower. As for those numbers businesses, Wilshcombe also recognizes that they continue to contribute in humanitarian efforts.
They're involved in a number of educational programs, and they're helping with the needy, so they are involved. We cannot allow for tons of money, hundreds of millions of dollars to be leaving our country when we could be utilizing those funds in the Bahamas to assist us in the growth and development of our nation.
Clint Watson, ZNS Network News.
The country recorded its highest annual figures to date in tourism. Based on preliminary figures, 2013 was a banner year for the country, receiving some 6.2 million visitors. Tourism Minister Obi Wilshcombe says these figures are by large and credited to a robust cruise industry and the resurgence of Grand Bahama into the market.
Of course, I'm very concerned about the spend. So whilst you have the good numbers, you still have to get the spend. And our emphasis on now ensuring that we are having occupancy levels high. That's fundamentally important. And when you consider the fact that we lost some ground in the eastern seaboard, particularly in the United States, of South Florida, or Florida generally, and New York, you'd appreciate that we have to do some work. We've been doing some work in getting our relationships redeveloped and causing for greater business to come from those areas. And of course, there's always the question of airlift. And that is why I constantly, and I'm always talking about, we need to get our national airline involved more into what we're doing, because that's going to be the major breakthrough in helping us get to some new gates. And of course, you see Grand Bahamas doing very well right now, and that's to do with Sunwing. We see the occupancy levels increasing in Grand Bahama, the spend increasing in Grand Bahama.
BEC consumers have been enduring a series of power outages in the last several days, up to 2 to 3 times a day in some areas for the last week. BEC Chairman Leslie Miller says the problem is a malfunctioning engine at Clifton Pier. Here's what's being done to rectify the problem.
We have given those persons at Clifton the authority to shut that engine down, get it right, fix it properly. So we now got to switch to Blue Hills. Reason why we didn't switch to Blue Hills, because the switch to Blue Hills is going to cost us a tremendous amount of money per day. Blue Hills used the diesel fuel, and we were trying to avoid that by using the bunker C, which is 30% less at Clifton than it is at Blue Hills. We have now switched to the engines at Blue Hills, so they won't be interrupted anymore. And maybe between now and Friday, we should have number 10 back on track with that 26.5 megawatts of power.
Now, Mr. Miller says areas like Blue Hills and Soldier Road have been having outages up to 2 to 3 times a day for a period of time, but that's being worked on. Meantime, he says he wants to make it clear what the outages are not linked to.
There's no load shedding. In fact, BC hasn't had any load shedding for the last 18 months. And we're very proud of the work that's been done over that period of time. No load shedding. We have the capacity. It's just switching from a more expensive source to a cheaper source. And we're doing that now. We don't want to do it because it's costing people money. But that's going to be rectified between now and Friday.
Prime Minister Perry Christie said today that the government, as the 65% majority owner of the Bank of the Bahamas, stands fully behind the bank and assures its customers and the public that their money is safe and secure. Mr. Christie noted that there's absolutely no reason for any fear or concern on that score, and the bank is sound and solid. The finance minister also indicated that the bank has consistently received unqualified audit reports from its external auditors and, like all other banks, is closely regulated by the Central Bank of the Bahamas to ensure conformity with regulatory requirements and international standards and best practices.
The Bahamas Union of Teachers is the latest group to oppose government's proposed value-added tax. BUT President Belinda Wilson says the decision comes following presentations from Financial Secretary John Roll, representatives from Citizens for a Better Bahamas, as well as the views of the BUT Executive Committee and members of the union. In a statement, the BUT outlines 20 concerns. Among them, the union says government has not provided sufficient public education. Additionally, teachers have been identified as one of the professionals to be affected by that. However, to date, Wilson says they have not been told how. There are also concerns regarding the clarity of revenue, how the deficit occurred, and steps to ensure the problem does not repeat. Now, the union has also made 9 recommendations, including not implementing the tax this July, examining other forms of taxation like income and payroll, and clearly explaining the deficit while outlining a detailed plan on spending cuts.
A mother of 5 told jurors during the Donnie Saunders rape trial today that she was in bed back in February of 2012 when the accused allegedly broke into her home during the early morning hours. The victim said after her attacker, who she knows, realized she didn't have any money, he told her he had something to take, she had to give him something anyway, and then proceeded to choke and molest her. The victim said she struggled with her attacker for about 10 minutes before he fell to the floor and then ran away. She testified that her 5-year-old grandson was also asleep in the room with her at the time of that incident. Jury selection taking place today in the Javan Colebrook murder trial. 34-year-old Colebrook is accused of killing 20-year-old Lyndon Bethel Jr. back in October of 2010. Bethel was at Illusions nightclub on East Bay Street when a security guard allegedly refused to let him into the club based on his past history. It eventually led to a struggle and Bethel was fatally stabbed. Colebrook has pleaded not guilty to the crime. Darnell Dorset and Charles Newbold are appearing on behalf of the Crown. Attorney Ty Punder is defending Colebrook, and Justice Vera Watkins is hearing the case.
Defense Force expected to add another boat to its fleet in about 2 months. I'm Altaviz Munnings. I'll have an update on the Sandy Bottom project in the Bahamas tonight.
Well, we're coming to you live from the Atlantis Resort, and it sure beats the studio, right, Andrew?
It sure does. I love it.
All right, we're live at the Atlantis Resort. Keep a lookout for the Watch and Win promo code. You'll never know what you may see or win. We'll be back after this.
This portion of the news is brought to you by Lux Men's Warehouse.